So now we did the dynamic milling. So now we'll show the Optirough and why it's easier to use for this particular operation. And yeah, so in this case, just going back, here's um, we set up the stock and we've set up the machine. We're going to save this and we're going to save as the new file. We're going to call it train demo 2. And so now we're going to make our new changes. So first thing is we're going to want a Optirough toolpath, and machining is what you're going to be machining. So we're actually going to leave 0 on the floor, and we're going to leave point 0, we're going to leave 10 thou on the walls, and we'll clean that up with a contour pass. Avoidance is what you want to avoid. In this case, we don't care about that because we'll see our toolpath works out pretty well. So we're going to select enemies, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to select the, okay, that's not what I wanted to do. We're going to select the entire body and selection, and it's going to generate a toolpath for us. So we can just see how it goes. Um, that is not what we wanted. And I think I mentioned this before, but it's because our tool plane is not the same as our world coordinate system. So we're just going to move those over, and we're gonna delete this. That's the easiest way to do it. And just click Optirough again and select 0, 0.01, and select that body again, and reject. And so now it'll move where we want it to move. See it, simulate. So, okay, that's pretty quick. Let's make it a little slower. So it's kind of unhappy. I think it's that the tool holder is hitting the stock face, so I think that's why it's red. And it's kind of too big of a tool, so we should modify some parameters. So toolpath control, we don't have to worry about this. Um, Boundary chains is if you want to keep it contained within a certain boundary. Uh, and then silhouette boundary we can actually is pretty useful and just show actually I don't know what to show, but essentially um, the silhouette boundary, it'll create a boundary around the selected machining geometry and use it as the containment boundary. So whatever we select as the machining geometry, if we want to keep the toolpath within the certain distance from that, we can use the silhouette boundary. So I found that that could be useful sometimes. But in this case, it's not an issue. We're actually going to change to a 3/8 flat end mill, and then I'm going to do radial chip thinning. I'm going to change the surface feet per minute to 300. And the feet per tooth to 8 thou, and the plunge rate we can change to 100%. And so here, and the plunge rate's based on the feed rate, I think. And we can select this force tool change. I'm not sure how important that is, but from what I read, it'll if you're using the same tool for multiple tool paths, it'll force the tool to move back to the home position between the tool paths, so it'll could avoid some problems with the tool hitting the stock um, in between movements. Um, and it also allows for a events to be triggered between operations. So if you want to pause the operation, I think that allows you to do that in between the toolpaths, even if you don't actually have to change the tool. Okay, so we move on to code parameters. So it's climb milling. So Optirough actually uses both step ups and step downs in its operation. So it'll step down by a certain amount, in this case 100%, which is fine. And then once it does that step down path, it'll incrementally step up. So we'll select that, and then it'll clean up whatever was left when we step down. So if there's any angled walls or islands or anything that it needs to clean up, it'll use the step up to clean those up. So we'll actually use a step over 15% just to reduce the chip load and just use that radial chip thinning effect. And I think again, no vertical walls. I think everything else should be fine. We already talked about these parameters in the previous videos. Um, and I don't think we need anything else, so we're going to generate toolpaths. So here we can see it's actually going to generate to the bottom, which we actually don't want. We want it to generate to the midplane, and then we are going to then machine the other side and machine that to the midplane as well, and that way we'll machine the whole body. So we'll just simulate this and see how it looks. So it's stepping down and it's stepping up and cleaning up whatever it missed. So we did that contour that we did with the dynamic milling, and now it's going to face the top, which isn't too important, but it's nice that it does it. And it's going to keep going down and then stepping up to clean up whatever is left. And we can just skip this and see that it machined the whole part. But the issue is this is a 3/8 tool, and it's going down an inch and a half, which I don't think we don't have one that can do that. So that's why we're going to also machine to the midplane. So in parameters, we're going to go to steep shallow, and then we're going to maximum depth. We're going to put 0.74. I already know this previously. The midplane is 0.75, 75 sal off of the base, but we're going to go a little past the midplane to ensure that it machines the whole part. So, and just in general, if you want to understand these parameters better, just click the help button wherever you see the parameter, and then you can look at some of those details. Um, yeah, and if you need even more detail, you just have to Google it or use like look at some forums. So we're going to do that. And it's gonna machine us to the midplane, which is fine. And so now we're gonna clean up this contour with the standard contour pass like we did with the dynamic milling. So the contour, and we're gonna select these edges. Check mark. I think everything should be good. So these are 3/8. I'm not gonna worry about stuff. Check. And so now we're gonna simulate this. And we're just going to skip the Optirough for now. And we're going to see the contour pass. Just make sure so here we can see the surface finish with the Optirough. You can see there's a little bit of waviness in the surface finish, and we're going to run the contour pass just to make it a little smoother. And you can see that it smooths out the whole thing. there's a little bit of a steps here, but overall it looks better. And after the other side is machined, we're actually can also use a contour pass to clean up these faces as well. So in total, it took 3 minutes to do this sign, which is I think it's pretty good. And then now we can add a stock model like we did before. So our source operations, we're gonna do a bounding box, select. We're gonna bring this over here, select the origin, and let's see if that's correct. So now we're gonna do the source operations. So we're gonna select all of these operations, and then just to see the stock model, just hide the other toolpaths. So Control T and Control T. There we go. And here we can see the stock model after those operations. So I think we're done with this. And for the next video, we'll move on to the other side and how to use levels in planes.